Altered items, or AIs for short. What are they, and what role do they play in the world of control? Simply put, altered items are objects that are imbued with special properties or abilities by paranatural forces. Imagine there is another dimension, for instance, intertwined with our own, but imperceptible to us in our daily lives. Yet, somehow they are inexplicably connected. In this dimension, everything we perceive as normal is turned upside down, and it is governed by its own set of systems or principles. Now envision if either a part of this dimension or an entity from it were to occasionally manifest in our ordinary reality. These fragments from the other dimension are in essence altered items.
The exact process of how an altered item is born eludes us.
Typically, these altered items take the form of archetypal objects, such as a rubber duck, refrigerator, or jukebox. While these objects are unassuming in our day-to-day, the Bureau believes that the dimension I mentioned earlier is affected by both our subjective perceptions of these objects, but more importantly, humanity's collective perception, or collective unconscious, which, coined by psychiatrist and psychoanalyst Carl Jung, is the part of the unconscious mind which is derived from ancestral memory and experience, and is common to all humankind, distinct from the individual's unconscious. These perceptions have some sort of implicit connection to the properties exhibited by the items themselves, at least according to the Bureau studies.
We create these archetypes through everyday life, popular culture, urban legends, but we are observing and influencing a complicated system in action.
A good example about the type of properties these items possess and their connection to the collective unconscious is the X-ray light box found in the parapsychology department. It has the ability to hypnotize those who look at it, putting them into a trance, fixed in their position, and unable to look away. Let's speculate about why this could be. In general, any circumstance that involves an X-ray in our lives is filled with some level of anxiety. It's not something that happens during your routine checkup. Having to get an X-ray is an indication that something may be wrong. Our bodies, the very means and mechanism for the experience of life, are often taken for granted, naturally. But we are in a very subtle way reminded of our own mortality when we are under more serious medical observations. Regardless of the results, I think it's safe to assume either consciously or unconsciously, and if even for a brief moment, we are in a different state of mind, fixated on uncertainty and unable to move forward with our lives until we understand what the results mean. A trance. This not only fulfills the lightbox's role as an archetypal object in our collective unconscious, but also its paranatural properties. Now that I've touched on the characteristics of altered items, I'd like to briefly discuss their origin. As far as we know, altered items manifest during AWEs, or altered world events, which for the purposes of this video, I'll describe as major paranatural events, which are the Bureau's primary focus of investigation and have led to the discovery of all other supernatural things in the world of control. Bureau investigations into these events almost always result in the acquisition of a new altered item, which are then transported to the oldest house and contained for further study and classification. But this raises further questions. How do you contain these sometimes dangerous supernatural objects? Well, you don't really. You can only appease them. It seems that while not explicitly exhibiting signs of outright sentience, these items have some will of their own.
Are altered items sentient? Not quite. They're often fixated, programmed almost to cause certain events to happen over and over again.
The most consistent form of containment practiced at the Bureau is through the practice of rituals, which are different for each item. Placed on pedestals in their chambers within the panopticon, these items receive different forms of ritualistic treatment that seems to keep them from acting erratically or dangerously. They are used to worship. This implies that throughout human history, it is likely that many objects of worship for ancient societies were likely what we know now as altered items. It's interesting to think about what role these items played in the development of human civilization in the world of control. Once contained, the altered items are classified by the Bureau. There are currently 5 classifications. The Ids of Altered Items are as follows: AI, $, E. The number sign being the number of the altered item, and $E being one of the 5 known categories. Here's the breakdown. KE class items are those which have a direct physical effect, either on the object itself or its surroundings. PE class items all have some sort of psychological or psychic effect on living beings. UE class items have large variations in their effects, with no obvious connections between them. AE class items, which can echo things that are spoken to them or travel short distances on their own. And finally, BE class items, which are items that spread unknown pathogens and disease. These are exceptionally rare. Overall, altered items play a huge role in the world of Control, offering endless food for thought and interesting gameplay scenarios. I'd like to see Remedy expand on the altered items we see and interact with, either in DLC or, fingers crossed, a sequel. If you have any thoughts on altered items yourself, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to discuss them with you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and be sure to like, favorite, and take control. This is SusSquid signing out.
We can change the likelihood of something being a receptacle for these forces just by thinking about it. But we haven't found a method to control the outcome. And yet, there's something unique in us.